and welcome to Module 5 lecture. Today we are going to talk about chapters 8 and chapters 9. Good news is this module does not have a quiz, yay! But it does have a written assignment. But with that written assignment, I think that you guys are really going to enjoy it. It is a chance for you to kind of like do like a case study or a case review. And you're going to kind of dig into the case of Roxanne and make some decisions or kind of use some of the skills that you've already learned and apply it to this case. So I'm really excited for that. And I hope that you guys enjoy this case study. I did want to kind of take a minute to still go over chapters 8 and 9 because there are still parts of this that are going to be important for your exam. So chapter 8, looking at the helping strategies. I love this chapter, and I could probably spend an hour or so talking about all these different theories or ways that you could work with clients. Unfortunately, we don't have that much time, so I'm going to try to go through this as fast as possible. This chapter, all of the things that we're going to talk about, or all of the theories or treatment types, are going to be focusing on these things. They're all going to be strengths-based. They're all going to be focused on choice, so choice of goals, choice of treatment, informed choice, things like that. We're also going to focus on looking at options, seeing what options a client has. And lastly, paying attention to the client's readiness to change. So are they ready to change? Where are they in that change process? Whether they're in the pre-contemplation stage or not. So the first one that we're going to talk about is harm reduction. Harm reduction, again, has been mentioned a few times throughout this textbook, but the goal of harm reduction is to reduce use. The goal is not abstinence. You are going to go and meet the client where the client is. So if the client is not ready to completely stop using, then they're not ready to stop using. You're going to meet them where they are, and maybe their goal is, if they're using 10 bags a day, maybe they will only use 8 bags a day. And you're going to slowly kind of like work back, to hopefully maybe, getting to that abstinent piece, but you want to meet the client where they are so that, they're not intimidated of treatment, they're not going to run away, or, you want to make sure that they stick with it. You want them to reach their goals. So that is harm reduction. I know I've mentioned this one before too, motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is going to assess where the client's level of motivation is. Are they motivated to change? Are they ready to change? Are they motivated to put in the work? Simple as that. So this type of therapy is kind of seeing where they're at with that and helping them get to a place where they can actually, change. The next one is solution focused. So funny little personal insight about this one. So solution focused, to sum that up, is the miracle question. And I used to have a love-hate relationship with the miracle question. And I'm going to tell you why. The miracle question goes a little bit like this. So suppose that you were going to go to sleep tonight, and while you were sleeping, a miracle happens. So you don't know that miracle has happened. And when you wake up in the morning, what would be the first thing that you notice? What would be different? So, I could go really far into that, but the goal of the miracle question is to work with the client to see what is their idea of this miracle. What is it that they want to see change? So then you pretend that this miracle happens with them, and you kind of assess, okay, so what is the first thing that they notice that has changed? Then you can go into, well, what do your family members see that's different about you or different about the change? Their friends, their coworkers, like you could go on. It is a really good tool, despite it sounding slightly silly, that really you can get to understand who are their important people in their lives, who are the people that are going to be, working with them as they make these changes. what really is the change that they want to have happen. There is a lot. Like I said, I could go into that and go into so much more detail with it. But yes. So again, my love-hate relationship with that started when I was sitting in your very seat and here at Seton Hill, and I heard this question, and I thought I could never see myself asking this in a treatment session. Well, I did quite a few times. Maybe not in those exact words, but I used it a good bit. So, those of you who aren't familiar with the miracle question, hopefully that gives you a little rundown of it. And I hope that it becomes useful for you someday too, as silly as it sounds. And then last but not least, we have cognitive behavioral therapy. So, cognitive behavioral therapy, or otherwise known as CBT, is you learn if you learn to think differently, you will behave differently. That's the concept behind it. So, cognitive behavioral therapy is pretty much what it sounds like. You are changing your thoughts so that your behaviors are different. Because if you think badly, you behave badly. So CBT has a lot of different strategies that therapy uses to kind of help a person change their thought processes behind their behaviors. Um, oh, I still could go on about these, but I'll leave it at that for now. So those are different types of therapy that you could use or that would be most beneficial when you're working with people with substance use. And another thing that your textbook also identifies is group therapy. I'm not going to get too far into that because you can use some of these same therapies, but in a group setting. The only difference is it's not just you and a client, it's you and multiple clients. And group therapy tends to be very popular in drug and alcohol, and it also is very cost effective as well. Moving on to chapter 9. Chapter 9 talks about your AA, NA, and then there's Al Anon meetings. There's all kinds of different things. These are your self help groups. I just want to kind of briefly go over them. Your textbook does go into a lot more detail that can offer more insight for you. But focusing first on AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, it was started in 1935 by Bill Wilson and Bob Smith, who were two, late stage alcoholics. They developed this big book, and the big book and these AA meetings and developed the 12 traditions. I'm not going to go through all the 12 traditions, but you can read more about it in your book. It's very interesting. And if you choose to go to one of these AA meetings or NA meetings, you're going to hear some of these things or become familiar with it. So I wanted to make sure that I touch upon it. With AA meetings, they are spiritually based, and they are led by fellow alcoholics. So it's not going to be led by, like a treatment professional or anything like that. These are voluntary. You choose to go to these meetings, and some of them have closed groups, some of them have open groups, different things like that. And nowadays we have online groups and such. But some of the principles and things that you will hear will be pretty standard throughout these meetings. Something that is common, if you haven't heard it, you will hear it. They usually have everyone go around and announce themselves. Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm an alcoholic. So that is something that they self-identify with. They want you to self-identify. NA meetings are Narcotics Anonymous. These were started in the 1950s, kind of a spin-off of the AA. Sometimes in AA meetings, drugs are frowned upon. Some of the real old school, hardcore AA goers kind of didn't believe in the mix between Alcoholics Anonymous and people using drugs. So they kind of stemmed off rather, and made their own group with their Narcotics Anonymous. And obviously the focus would be drugs. Still similar concepts. They have, their own kind of like traditions, if you will, or things that they follow. And I have heard from clients that these groups tend to be a little bit more relaxed in setting compared to AA meetings. Not that AA meetings are super strict, but just like I said, a lot of those, hardcore, old school people that have been going for years, they're kind of set in their ways. Not sure, if that's true in every case, but putting that into perspective. There's other meetings that have stemmed from this, such as cocaine anonymous meetings, nicotine anonymous meetings. There's Al-Anon meetings, which we'll talk a little bit more in chapter 10 when we talk about families. And then and other addiction groups too that we're not covering in this class, but Overeaters Anonymous, stuff like that. So primarily, I just want you to take away that, AA is somewhat in line with the harm reduction model. It is their decision whether or not they're going to get clean and stay clean, and, how they're going to take their recovery into control. So this is Module 5. I hope that this was helpful for you.